Part 1: The Town That Never Changed. I grew up where the roads were straight and dusty, and the sky felt too wide. A town in Kansas where time didn't move, it just circled the same memories. My father drank more than he talked, and when my mother left us for another man in Missouri, the house became quiet in a way that hurt. People said she chased happiness. To me, she abandoned the only thing that needed her: me. I stopped answering her messages. If she could leave so easily, then her words meant nothing. School was my escape. Rows of computers in a room that smelled like plastic and old textbooks. And Mr. Harris, the computer science teacher, who explained code like it was magic. He was calm, careful with words. He made computers feel like a world where rules were fair, unlike life. One day I messaged him online, just a question about a program. He replied, and suddenly the distance between teacher and student became blurry. Compliments from him felt like oxygen. I was 15 and didn't know what kind of fire I was walking toward. He was 32 and should have known better. Part 2: The Apartment with No Light. We started meeting after school. At first, it felt like a secret that made me important. He said I understood him better than adults, that I listened, that I admired him. I believed it. When I moved into his apartment outside Wichita, nobody stopped me. My father only shrugged. He said, "At least someone wants you." Those words stayed in my bones like winter cold. The apartment was small. One bedroom, white walls, cheap blinds. Mr. Harris began to change. Not suddenly, but in small lines between sentences. He corrected the way I folded clothes. He said I should be grateful he took responsibility for me. He called my opinions childish. He reminded me how smart he was and how young I was. I thought love meant agreeing. I thought love meant silence. When I got pregnant, he didn't hide his disappointment. "I'm not ready," he said. "I don't want this." He refused to go with me to the doctor. He saved money on food. I told myself it was stress. I told myself everything would change once the baby arrived. I was wrong. Part 3: The Weight of a Tiny Heart. The day my son was born, I was 16. The hospital lights were harsh, and I was scared. More than I'd ever been. Mr. Harris stayed distant, holding the baby like something fragile and unwanted. After we returned home, everything got worse. Sleepless nights, crying, loneliness that wrapped around me like darkness. He blamed me because the baby cried. He blamed me for being tired. He blamed me for not keeping the house spotless. I felt myself shrinking, every week, smaller and smaller. A TV show reached out, offering help. A famous host and a psychologist met with us separately. They talked about communication, respect. On camera, we smiled. Off camera, nothing changed. A month later, I found out I was pregnant again. I didn't cry. I went silent. Silence is what happens when your voice has been ignored too many times. The decision I made later was the hardest moment of my life. Not because someone forced me, but because I was finally choosing for myself. Part 4: The First Step. After the show aired, people online were angry, not at me, but at him. They said a grown man living with a girl my age wasn't a romantic story. It was a crime. For the first time, strangers defended me more than my family ever did. I started talking to a social worker. She didn't call me childish. She didn't ask why I stayed. She only asked, "What do you want?" No one had asked me that in years. I wasn't ready to answer. But the question planted something inside me, a small seed of possibility. I enrolled in a GED program. I started therapy. I learned that love doesn't isolate you. It doesn't silence you. It doesn't take your choices. I learned that fear can look like loyalty, and control can sound like love. Part 5: Becoming Real. The day I left the apartment, my son slept in my arms. The hallway smelled like cheap carpet. My heart shook so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. Mr. Harris didn't believe I would go. He said I had nowhere to run. He was wrong. There was a shelter. There were women who understood, because they had lived my story in different towns, different ages. They taught me how to breathe without permission, how to talk without waiting for someone's approval, how to stand, even on shaking legs. Weeks turned into months. I worked part-time at a local grocery store. I studied in the evenings. I learned how to hold my son and not feel guilt for everything. One night, while rocking him to sleep, I whispered, "You will never grow up learning that love means silence." That was the moment I understood. I wasn't broken. I was healing. And healing is louder than fear. I don't forgive what happened. I feel real. I feel like a person who can choose.